Ma'am, I and my team welcome you in today's session. We are very, we feel very proud, privileged that you are amongst us today, and you are going to speak on consumer protection mechanism in India. And we are very thankful to you that upon short notes, you acknowledged that and you agreed to be one of the speakers in our 10 days program. We welcome you, ma'am, for that accepting that request. And I may request you to please start the session.
Hello. So, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So, before I start this session, I really have to congratulate Mr. Yahya for organizing such a wonderful brain churning session for 10 long days, and now here we are for concluding the entire thing. Along with that, I have to thank Mr. Kalpesh, Professor Kalpesh, Dr. Kalpesh, in fact, who this is, I want to bring it to all of your notice that this is not the first time that such a program has been organized. Professor Kalpesh has been organizing such programs, so many programs parallelly, and they are ongoing, connecting everyone with intellectual pursuits globally and domestically. So I really need to congratulate. And here we are on the concluding phase of this 10 days program. So I congratulate Professor Kalpesh and Mr. Yahya Ibrahim. And about the lecture today, which concerns about the consumer protection mechanism here in India. I think that before we start, everybody must be knowing that consumerism here in India and globally, it is such a mechanism which involves every facet of our lives, uh, be it medical, be it hotel and tourism, airways, railways, food, drugs. Anywhere you go, and one becomes a consumer and the other becomes a seller. So ranging it is quite wide ranged, ranging from buying a 20 rupee soap in a grocery shop to buying a 100 crore flat somewhere in Mumbai. Somebody becomes a consumer and the other becomes a seller. So every facet that we go, the concept of consumerism exists. You know, and when we talk about the consumer protection mechanism here in India, earlier we were being governed mainly by the 1986 Consumer Protection Act, which has now been repealed and replaced by the new Consumer Protection Act 2019. But why the need was being felt to introduce this 2019 Act, and what was the purpose of introducing it, is very simple. Because of the emerging trends of e-commerce, because of a lot of movement of money internationally, because of the digitization of the market, and the international trade, the emerging trends of international trade. The 1986 Act of Consumer Protection had more or less become very obsolete, and a need was felt to refurbish the entire act, and hence the repealing of the 1986 Act and bringing into face the 2019 Act. While the 2019 Consumer Protection Act in India, it serves as the parent act for the consumer protection mechanism here in India. I would like to also tell all of you that it is not only this act which actually is responsible for the protection mechanism, because whichever field you go, let's say we are talking about food, we are talking about medical field, we are talking about railways, we are talking about drugs, whichever field you go, they have their own independent statutes dealing with those facets of, or with those units of law. And as a result of which, those we also have the protection mechanism in those particular legislations. So this parent Consumer Protection Act of 2019 is interconnected with all those various statutes as well, statutes concerning the food safety, statutes concerning your drugs, your medical safety, concerning railways, hotel and tourism, etc. So one thing needs to be clear in our mind, that all these acts and all these statutes, they are all interconnected. And if we say that there is one independent way of protection mechanism of consumerism, that is the 2019 Act, that would be unfair to say. And so before, other than the changing needs, that is the emerging trends of e-commerce and the international trade that has been introduced and that has been emerging, the raising standards. the rising expenses, which were not included in the 1986 Act, was another reason for the introduction of the 2019 Consumer Protection Act. So, coming to the Consumer Protection Act, the centerpiece of the consumer protection mechanism in India, I would like to tell all of you that this 2019 Act, which is so introduced quite recently, it majorly is divided into three wings, or it majorly introduces three major wings. The first wing, that is the Consumer Protection Councils, is more or less similar to how it existed in the 1986 Act. That is, these councils are meant, or their major objective being the protection and promotion of the rights of the consumers, and with being merely advisory bodies with no enforcement mechanism being vested in them. And these are majorly the policy making bodies, so they are more or less the similar or same as they existed in the 1986 Act. Then another wing that was introduced in the 2019 Consumer Protection Act was the dispute redressal commissions. Now, the dispute redressal commissions are more or less similar to the fora that existed at various levels, that is, at the district, at the state, and at the national level. The fora that existed, which had the adjudicatory powers and also had the power of enforcement and signing of penalties to whoever, to the complainants and to the other party. So they are more or less the same, with a minor difference in the nomenclature, where earlier they were called as the fora, or the district forum, state forum, and the national forum. Now they are called as the commissions. So these commissions are also available at different level, at the district level, at the state level, and at the national level. But there has been quite a welcoming change as far as these commissions are concerned, because that is vis-a-vis their jurisdiction, where earlier the pecuniary jurisdiction of the different fora, that is the district, state, and national fora, they were lesser, much lesser, I would say. Now they have been increased. So where an amount, it involves an amount which involves somewhere up to rupees 1 crore, that is now being dealt with the district commission, where earlier this jurisdiction was limited up till 10 lakhs only. Now the state commission, it deals any matters involving amount of rupees 1 crore to 10 crores, and the national commission, which deal with matters involving the amount above rupees 10 crores. And another very welcoming change that has been brought about in these commissions has been the change in the territorial jurisdiction. So in 1986 Act, earlier the jurisdiction was very limited. That is, you could file a complaint only where the seller was, or the complaint where the cause of action existed. As far as the 2019 Act, Consumer Protection Act, is concerned, here the jurisdiction has quite been relaxed. Reason being that because of the existence of the international trade, where the seller is in some part of the world and the buyer is in the other part of the world. In such a scenario, limiting the jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction, would be unfair, and I think would not also be feasible. So this was the reason where the territorial jurisdiction here has been relaxed to quite an extent, and as a result, the complainant can file the complaint anywhere, so, within India, and also not depending upon where the cause of action is or where the seller is. So this has been relaxed, again a very welcoming change. And one more thing, that the complaint can be filed online as well, which has been made very convenient for the consumers. Many a times the complaint can be made by emails or in written, whatever is convenient to the consumer. Again, a very welcoming change. And another third wing, which I told you about, the three wings, and the third wing, which has been introduced in the Consumer Protection Act 2019, which never existed earlier, was the Central Consumer Protection Authority under Section 10 of the new Consumer Protection 2019 Act. And this is a very different and a very innovative authority, or I would say a body, that has been introduced in this in the new 2019 Act, which never existed earlier. So this body was basically introduced to fill the gaps which the council and the fora that existed earlier could not fulfill. Basically, what happens is, when we file a complaint in the commissions, as they are presently, what happens is that such commissions, they would deal with the issues which are very specific in nature, where a particular consumer would have a particular problem, and he would go to the commission and file a case. And after a thorough investigation, inquiry, and whatever the procedure is, the commission would revert back with an enforcement mechanism, or by announcing the compensation, where only a particular consumer who was at loss was being dealt with. But the CCPA, with the introduction of CCPA, this major gap has been fulfilled, because now the CCPA, it has a lot of expansive powers have been provided to the Central Consumer Protection Authority, that is the CCPA. Hereinafter, I would call it the CCPA. So this CCPA is a body which, so set up. It is set up by the statute, which would compromise, or which would comprise of a chief commissioner, and under the chief commissioner would be other commissioners, and a full team having the very expansive powers which are advisory and regulatory in nature, number one, where you can also conduct inquiries and investigation. The power has been vested with this body. And where again you also have the enforcement mechanism, where you can announce the penalties and compensation, where you find that the particular a particular party is at fault. So when we talk about its advisory and regulatory this function, or the power that has been vested with it, here CCPA, it has a power of taking monitoring basically the entire consumerism here in India. So it basically aims at protecting the consumer as a class, as a community. Even if somebody has not come up and complained against a particular practice that has been followed by a manufacturer or a service provider, this CCPA can jump suo moto. It can either do that suo moto, or on receiving a complaint from the central government, or on receiving a complaint from a district collector, and can enter into the matter and investigate into a particular practice which is not so in favor of the consumers. So when we talk about the advisory and the regulatory function, this CCPA, it can act suo moto against any misleading advertisement that has been taking place, or any misleading information that is being now today, because of the print media as well as the electronic media, it is not very difficult to make a particular information viral. So this CCPA, it has the power of investigating into the matter suo moto, even if no complaint has been made to it, and to investigate. For example, I will tell you one case. Very recently in 2020, what happened was that on these online shopping portals like Amazon and Flipkart, there was this instrument or device which was being sold blatantly. And what was this device? This device was a small clip which was used to prevent the alarm that beeps once while if the car seat belt is not put on. So this was the clip which could be put in the car seat belt, and even if the driver is not wearing the seat belt, the alarm would not beep. And it was being sold off blatantly in the so basically it was an alarm clock stopper. The car seat belt, even if you're not wearing it, this clip, if you put it in the socket of the car seat belt, the alarm clock would stop beeping. And it was being sold blatantly on various online shopping portals like Amazon, Flipkart, Meesho, everywhere. And hence, on a complaint from the Department of Consumer Affairs to the CCPA, the CCPA, it because it thought that it was against the interest of the consumer, even if it is at the convenience of the consumer, it was compromising with the interest of the consumer, with the welfare of the consumer. And hence, it thought it best to intervene into the matter. It sent a notice to Amazon people that how can you sell this thing blatantly? It is compromising the welfare of a consumer. And on a not very long though, a 15 days notice was given to the Amazon people to revert back, to which they said that we are not the manufacturers, we are just serving as the marketplace for selling this particular product. To which again, after the entire procedure, after the entire inquiry and investigation which was being conducted by CCPA, eventually it was decided and eventually it directed the Amazon and other Flipkart and other Misho, the other online selling portals, that such a product cannot be sold because it compromises with the welfare of the consumer. So this is how the CCPA it intervenes into the matter. Now, if we take this example, a consumer would never come up to any forum or any commission regarding this, because it is at the convenience of the consumer and the consumer is using it blatantly. But when we look at the broader perspective, we would see that this is not for the welfare of the consumer, and this is compromising the interest of the consumer. So in situations like this, CCPA it intervenes suo moto, and where it finds that prima facie there is a case which is compromising with the interest of the consumer, it can direct, it has the powers to inquire, to investigate into the matter, and direct eventually to stop or stop following a particular practice. Another very important function that has been vested with the CCPA is that it can intervene into any matter which is ongoing in the district, state, or national commission. So it has the power to intervene and to act as per its wishes, and then again to recommend the adoption of new measures where it feels that such a lacuna, or there is a particular lacuna in any consumer protection mechanism. It can recommend for the adoption of the same. It can promote research in the field of consumer rights. Then again, another function is to encourage the NGOs, then to advise the ministries, that where, for example, I tell you, had such a mechanism been there in 1986 Act, you know, or any such body in the 1986 Act, we would not have had the need of bringing about a new 2019 Act altogether. Because had such a body been there, it would have directed or it would have issued certain kind of guidelines because of the powers so vested in it. But because such a body did not exist during that time, it became very bring about a new act. So this CCCPA also fulfills that gap, that in the coming times where a need is felt, that a new guideline or a new practice needs to be put into, or a new practice needs to be introduced, such a thing can also be given, because a very important and a very I would say expansive function has been provided to this particular body, that is to issue guidelines. So if you just have a look on the consumer protection acts, you would also say that see that a lot of guidelines have been introduced, guidelines relating to the process of mediation in consumer protection mechanism, relating to advertisements or misleading information or false information being produced. So there are guidelines for every genre of the consumer protection mechanism, and these guidelines have been issued by the CCPA. So this and these guidelines did not only serve, they are not merely present on the paper, but they serve as recommendations for the ministers, for the departments and the ministries at the center. At the same time, they also serve as recommendations for the courts. So even the courts refer to these guidelines while deciding, or courts, or the commissions, they refer to these guidelines while deciding a particular case which involves the rights of the consumers. So this is also a very important function which has been entrusted with this CCPA under Section 18 Clause L of the 2019 Act. But one thing that comes to my mind and keeps into my mind is that where this body, which has been given very expansive powers, let's say powers relating to inquiry, to investigation, to enforcement, and very expansive powers as compared to the council that existed in the 1986. I think which only had the advisory power. I think that had the similar powers been vested in the same council, that was also one solution to this, rather than building an entire body, a different body altogether, with which would be requiring more infrastructure, which would be requiring more manpower to manage, and which would be requiring more, of course, officers to deal with such issues. So again, here this question can peep into our mind, that had the powers of the council, the already existing council, which earlier had the advisory power, had its powers been widened, then the infrastructure and the new manpower that was the need of the hour after the building up of the CCPA would not have been required. Any having said that, again I would say that the introduction of CCPA was a very welcoming introduction, was a very welcoming step, because it has fulfilled all the gaps that existed earlier between the council and the fora that existed in the 1986 act. Another important provision, or important a drawback, I would say, that I find in the process of this protection mechanism of CCPA is that where it has been given the powers of conducting the inquiry, conducting investigation, and then again filing of compensation, whatever has been given. At the same time, I feel that no such provision has been explicitly mentioned in the 2019 Act regarding the powers of the CCPA, where it can, also announce the injunction, or let's say an interim injunction. So while a particular case is still pending with the CCPA, what is happening with the complainant, or what is happening with the victims, that remains unclear, and that power has not been vested with this particular body. So that remains a matter of actually that this zone, this is a gray zone in the protection mechanism of the CCPA. This is one. This was its the advisory and the regulatory functions that it had. And then if we jump to the investigation and the inquiry of the investigative authority that this body has, if you look into it, the investigation wing, which is comprising of the director general, additional director general, and then there are other directors depending upon the situation or a particular issue that has risen up, that can be introduced in the system. So wherever they feel, that there is a violation of the consumer right, or there is any unfair trade practice which has been going on, or there is some false or misleading advertisement, the CCPA can intervene into the matter. First, it will hold a preliminary inquiry, and after conducting the entire preliminary inquiry, it can call for the investigation. It also has the power of sending a notice to the wrongdoer. And it is again an adjudicatory process. I would say that in again, what the difference lies is that when we talk about the different commissions and the fora in the adjudicatory process, again I would say that only a specific issue or an interpersonal issue is being dealt with. Now, in when we conduct investigation inquiry, the big giant industries that are present with us, where a consumer with limited resources never used to or used to shy away in filing a case against the big giant industries. Now that thing has been done away with, where when we give such wide and expansive investigative powers to CCPA, because now CCPA can act suo moto, or on the advice of the central government, or on the directions of the central government, or a complaint filed by the central government, which again, or by any consumer also, to the district collector. So which again, I think the process has quite been relaxed. Rather than going to the commission, you just write an email to the CCPA, or to your director general, who, or to your district collector, who would forward the same complaint to the CCPA. And here, without the loss of the consumer, or without the consumer being dragged into the court, or into the commission, the CCPA can take the action, take cognizance of the matter. And again, it can conduct inquiries and investigation, and wherever it feels that a particular act or a practice is against the rights of the consumer, or is against the interest of the consumer, it even has the power of announcing compensations in favor of the consumers, etc. For example, I would give you another case. This again was being dealt by the CCPA in 2022. What happened was that in Jharkhand, there was this Alkari Devi hospital, and it claimed to, in all the print media and electronic media, wherever it was advertising about itself, it claimed to be the number one multi-speciality hospital for the women and the children. And so somebody, women and children, and it was informed to the CCPA by the Advertising Standards Council of India, which is the ASCI. it was announced and it was informed to the CCPA that they are claiming to be the number one multi-speciality hospital. However, the appropriate grading doesn't hold them to be number one. So this is a misleading information. On being called upon, calling upon the authorities concerning this hospital, they said that no, we did not mean as per the grading, but we were claiming ourselves to be the best. And this again was a very lengthy procedure, because a lot of warnings and a lot of directions were provided to the Alkari Devi hospital, that you should remove this number one grading as you claim to be from your advertisements, from print media as well as electronic media. They did not do so. And eventually what happened was that they eventually the CCPA, it was forced to direct these people to pay a compensation of rupees 50,000 to whoever was suffering because of such an activity. And it also directed them to discontinue with such an ad on the print media. So this is how the CCP, I'm trying to explain you how it intervenes into the matter, and how it can take cognizance of a matter suo moto, where a particular consumer would either not have the resources to fight against the giant companies and the giant industries, or where they would just laze around that who would get involved in the tedious proceedings of the court. So this basically is a monitoring mechanism of the CCPA. So, when we talk about its investigative mechanism, first a preliminary inquiry has to be done, where CCPA has to be satisfied that prima facie there exists a case which involves or which demands the involvement of CCPA, and after that it calls upon the inquiry on the satisfaction of the prima facie case. It calls upon the investigation and the inquiry, and can ask for the production of documents for the purpose of inquiry, and and all such powers which have been given to the civil court. But here again I would like to mention that while this body of CCPA is similar to the body or to the commissions of women, for meant for the protection of women or meant for the protection of children, it is akin to them, or it is very similar to them. And in their respective statutes, they have been given, and it has been explicitly mentioned in the statute, that they would have the same powers as that of the civil courts. The same has not been mentioned here in the CCPA. So again, clouds of confusion or clouds of ambiguity, they come into our mind, or they hover our mind, that why it has not been mentioned explicitly that the CCPA would have the same powers of as that of the civil court while dealing with the matter, while you are virtually giving very wide and expansive powers to the CCPA. So this again remains a point of confusion, or a point of which needs some pondering over. And then again, the CCPA also has this another function of, as I told you, that it can provide with injunctions, it can provide with penalties. For example, it can even give you enforceable orders like recalling of the good, or reimbursement of the purchases, or discontinuation of a particular ad, or discontinuation of a particular misleading information, then penalty for not complying with the directions. So it has such all enforceable functions as well, and it can pass such enforceable orders, it can even pass penalties. But again, I would repeat it, that when all such powers have been vested with the CCPA, then why it has not been explicitly mentioned in the act that it has the similar powers to that of the civil court. So this is something we all of us need to ponder upon and think about. And so much so that even it has been provided in the present act that on the non-compliance with a particular direction or the enforceable order of CCPA, it would amount to a criminal act which can even amount to imprisonments and fine. So when such wide powers and expansive powers have been provided with the CCPA, why it has not been explicitly mentioned as to that it has the similar powers of civil court, that needs to be thought upon. And another very other than the CCPA, which was provided with the expansive powers. A very important introduction that has been made in this 2019 Act, which never pre-existed, was the introduction of the concept of mediation under section from section 74 to 81, which again introduce the entire procedure how the mediation has to be done. And this mediation is done for the purpose of speedy redressal mechanism, so that wherever the complainant and the seller, they think, the seller and the buyer, they think that they can come to a conclusion, or they can come to a solution after conducting a mediation. They can, so mediation centers have been established at every commission, at the national, at the district, at the state level. These mediation centers have been established, which are quasi judicial in nature, and again they are for the speedy and correct redressal of the consumer disputes. The matter can even be introduced. The matter can be forwarded by the courts or by the commissions, or the seller and buyer, they can themselves decide to, come to a conclusion through the mediation center. So after having explained, these were the major introduction, major, I would say, major new introductions that have been made in the act, or new enactments or new additions that have been made in the present 2019 act, which never pre-existed. There have been certain kind of drawbacks. I would not say that it is all perfect. So there have been drawbacks. For instance, after in J&K, I know for a fact that after the 2019 Act, Consumer Protection Act had come into being, J&K, the erstwhile state of J&K, was also going through a transitional phase where, the statehood was being taken away from us, and we had become a union territory. As a result of which, there was this reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir Act 2019, which had enlisted a few, I will not say few, but many local laws as redundant, and one of them being the Consumer Protection Act, the local law, or the Consumer Protection Act of J&K. Now, as a result of which, virtually for 2.5 years, we did not in J&K have any consumer redressal forums or commission, because where on one hand the fora which were being or the state forum or the district forum which were being established under the local laws of Jammu and Kashmir, local consumer law of Jammu and Kashmir, that was being made redundant. On the other hand, we had this introduction of new commissions under the 2019 Consumer Protection Act, which had its own division bench, and which had its own a non-judicial member also having expertise in a particular field of consumerism. Those benches or those commissions, they had not been established, and for good 2.5 years, for 3 years, virtually we did not have any redressal mechanism here in consumer. We did not have any redressal mechanism here in J&K, and as a result of which, a lot of cases, the consumers who had filed a case were in a lurch. Many of them, had started filing writ petitions in the High Court, claiming that we do not have any redressal mechanism, and we are exhausted of all the mechanism that is available for the protection of the consumers. So this was a major drawback, and even now, when today the commissions have been set up under the 2019 Act, I think the backlog and the pendency of the cases, because of this good gap of 3 years, does not allow the proper functioning of there still remains a backlog and pendency, and then again it is a very slow paced mechanism presently in J&K. I can talk about J&K practically. Then another drawback which always existed and which even today exists, but to a large extent has been done away with by the introduction of the CCPA, is that, when we talk about the consumer rights, it's always a fight or a war between a very huge giants or industries available here in J&K against very small consumers with limited resources. So, in such a situation, the consumer usually did not have a very, I can say, a very consumer always used to suffer because they were fighting against the giants of the industry, who had the money, the resources, and skills to manipulate the system and to, fight against the resources, the consumers with very less resources. But again, this thing to a very more or less has been done away, and I think it was for this purpose that the CCPA was again introduced, keeping in view this drawback. But how efficient and how efficacious CCPA would be in the coming time, that still has to be seen, because it is too recent a development, 2019, so that still has to be seen. While the work that has already been done by CCPA so far seems commendable, I would not say that it has not done anything at all. But how far would it go and how efficient and efficaciously it would work, that is still to be seen in the coming years. And like every court proceeding, another drawback is that it is a very, very lengthy process. So for a consumer to enter into this proceedings of court, again it is a very tedious, complex procedure. So again, consumer suffers a lot because of that. And the most important drawback in today's scenario is the introduction or the emerging trends of cyber crimes. So cyber crimes, whenever we talk about the cyber crimes mostly involve the fraudulent practices that are happening online. And again, it involves a seller and a buyer. The buyer is many a times we have seen, and with the many, we have seen many a times where there are insurance companies who are calling, fraud insurance companies calling, and then there are so many online portals who are, you are buying something, you have already paid the money, and when you receive the product, it is not what you had what you had seen online, or it's not a product at all sometimes. So such practices have also increased. And the drawback is that our infrastructure, our the police is not very well equipped, well skilled as the cyber criminals. The cyber criminals, they are much more advanced, they have much more knowledge regarding the cyberspace. And our police is like a very conventional police, which knows how to run behind the thief, but how to deal with the criminals online, they are not very well versed with it. They are not very well skilled. And again, they have a very meager knowledge regarding the computers. And maybe they know how to work on internet like any layman. But if you say that they are specialists and they are engineers who have a detailed knowledge, we don't have that kind of mechanism still. So the maximum a police can do, while any kind of fraud has taken place, is block the movement of money as soon as possible. And when that is not done, it becomes very difficult for it to trade the criminal, because this is a global market where in the entire world could you track for them unless you are a specialist, or you have some special knowledge regarding the same. And on the same time, the internet service providers, they also fail to cooperate with our system, because they do not provide us with enough data and information regarding the particular person who is fraudulently playing with the money, or fiddling with the money of the consumers, keeping in view the this the privacy rights, etc. So again, I think there needs to be some kind of bilateral agreement with the government and the internet service providers, who provide us with the information as and when required in the cases of these crimes, because otherwise it becomes very difficult to track the criminal online. Other than that, I think that some kind of mechanism should be there, where we are appointing specialists, or we are appointing engineers who have an advanced knowledge regarding the same. And we need a separate chamber of engineers in our police wing as well, who can track the criminals, because nowadays the cyber criminals are much more advanced than our police. So this is one I would say one change that needs to be done in the present system. And again, then there need to be more laboratories who are, I think that we need to have laboratories who are dealing with this issue, the cyberspace explicitly, rather than just a mere police station where you can go and file FIR, and the police is going to catch the thief in a very conventional manner, because now it is not the same. The things have changed. The paradigm has shifted to the cyberspace. So that I think is the changing. That is the need of the changing times. And other than that, as I said, that we need cooperation with the internet service providers and the data, because the retrieval of information otherwise becomes very difficult in this global market. So tracking the record and proving it in the court, it all becomes very difficult unless we have some kind of cooperation from the internet service providers. And again, in many cyber crimes, we see that a personification is done. A person is pretending to be somebody he's not, and sometimes he's using a SIM card which is not his. And when the police goes on, tracking the SIM card, they find that it is not the person they were tracking. So such kind of practices are being carried out on the internet, and we need a special mechanism to combat this practice on the internet. uh, Also, again, because of the nature of the global nature of these crimes, because of the transnational nature of these crimes, because sometimes it so happen that somebody is sitting there in China and he's fraudulently taken all the money from a bank account. In such a situation, I think such crimes will become transnational in nature. I think it becomes very important that some kind of international cooperation or some kind of bilateral agreement with the countries, that if so and so crime happens and we track that the crime has taken place from your country, some kind of agreement needs to be done that the criminal would either be handed over to us or would be tried in your country or whatever. Such kind of mechanism needs to be introduced, because such mechanism has not been introduced. I'm afraid that such mechanism does not exist as of now. Other than that, I think even the consumers who are consuming various products online, they need to be self-aware, because self-awareness is very important. You cannot go on, distributing your or sharing your information regarding your debit card, your credit cards, or your financial documents. You cannot go on. You cannot be doing that just haywire, because you also need to be cautious. The consumers also need to be cautious while sharing all such kind of information online. Because they need to also track the authenticity of the buyer they are dealing with online, the bank details, because nowadays the even our everything is so advanced that everything is interconnected. Sometimes you log into Facebook or Instagram, they even ask for your bank details which is quite scary. So we need to be aware about all these things as well. And I don't know if many of you might be knowing that knowing it, that we have this feature of a microphone feature in our phones, where whatever I and you are talking, it gets recorded, and the next day you go online and you receive the same links you have been talking about, or the topic that you have been discussing. So we need to be aware of such things also, and such mechanism exists in our phones, or in our laptops, or in our iPads. We need to be aware of that, and we need to be very cautious while sharing our information, so as to prevent any kind of fraud to take place online. So that was it for my session. So over to you.